What's up, guys? Welcome to another Gold Rush Weekly Watch List. We went through SPX, and I had some technical difficulties with my my OBS, but we've only gone through some of the names for earnings, which I'll reiterate at the end, and SPX, which I'll reiterate at the end. So back to XLE. If you were part of the server with us last year, you know we feasted off of some of the names that comprise XLE, right? Such as XOM, Oxy, CVX, CVE. A lot of energy names that paid us last year. I think energy's back on the table. Just because energy is not in infinite supply, and so I think that as price gets higher, as the company, the public, the sector gets higher, it becomes more tradable, right? It was tough down here. This is kind of no man's land. As you can see, there's a bunch of gaps down in this area down here. So it's just really tough to kind of catch it, but it's back well within the range where it can reject pretty hard and pull back to this kind of low area here, or break out above all this resistance and work its way up. And this is a daily chart on XLE. So I'll just be watching XLE. If you see some energy names, it's because, we broke this, we have this gap, we held it here, and we broke to the upside, and now we're going to continue the upside move. Or if you see me calling some puts, it's because I think it's going to pull back to this moving average here and the 200 here. Are these EMAs? Let me see. I think these are EMAs. Yeah, these are EMAs. Let me put my SMAs on. Sorry about that. All right, so yeah, so it can pull back to the 50 pretty easily, or the 200 pretty easily, just because it hasn't tested in a couple of days. So either way, any type of action that you see from energy, just know that I got my eye on XLE now for some nice moves in the next couple of months. Next one's XLF. Pretty straightforward. Pretty much the same thing. XLF, we played last week for a break into 32, which it gave us 32 on Friday after JPM's earnings report. I'm expecting, if there's a continuation in strength in the sector, for this to base along this area and then work its way up to test this 200-day moving average. That's my final target for XLF before some other fuckery announces itself in the news. So for now, I would play the range of pretty much this candlestick here, the candlestick of March 10th. But I'm expecting for it to find support just where it found it here, maybe test it a couple more times, work its way up.
That's a personal growth thing to see how far I've come from that.
All right. And then the next sector is the biggest, probably the most popular sector, is QQQ. QQQ is the Invesco technology sector, comprised of biggest names such as Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Tesla, etc., etc. So this is nothing new, right? We know that we hit that kind of double top or head and shoulders or whatever it is that you see back here, and we've been going down pretty much all of last year and sideways pretty much at the beginning of this year, and now we're starting to make higher highs and higher lows. Trying to, right? QQQ has good strength relative to SPX, so you see that it's actually formed its higher highs here, right? We have different sets of highs that reach higher and lows that reach higher as well, and so QQQ has been leading pretty much every part of the market. So that's why you see us constantly hitting names such as Microsoft, such as Netflix, such as Google, such as Nvidia and AMD, right? Such as Apple. These are the leaders in QQQ, and so look for strength in QQQ. Look for confluence in the setup on QQQ, and you'll find it in some of the smaller names. I always keep QQQ on my chart, even if it's the tiniest chart with no indicators on it. I always want to know what it's doing, because if it's setting up nicely along with Nvidia, right, or along with an AMD, or along with an Apple, I know there's going to be a nice move in one of those names. So constantly keep QQQ on the chart. QQQ gave a nice little consolidated move after a nice bounce off the 200-day moving average here, this black line. Nice bounce, consolidated move, broke some support, formed a spring here, and then gapped 4 days in a row to make a new high, right? Now, I put a Fibonacci from the bottom of this candlestick to the top of this red candlestick here, just to kind of measure the pullback and see how strong it is. There's a couple of fibs here that are on top of each other. Get rid of that one. That one's done. Okay. So here's a 0, here's 100%. 100% right there, and it pulled back and it's bouncing. It's found support on the 50% fib a couple, 3 or 4 times, right? What that means in plain English is if you take the entire move from the bottom of this, where this support broke and it formed a spring where it bounced, to the top where it found its high, and then you measure it, basically it pulled back, but it didn't retrace more than 50% of the move. So buyers are still in control as of now. And sellers didn't have enough strength to bring it back down to retrace more than 50% of the move. So that's very, very important for QQQ. I think it's in a key area right now at this Fibonacci level that it's at. And if it can hold here, then I expect for it to retest this high. Maybe this week, maybe next. But we'll see what happens with QQQ. QQQ is going to be a tough boat to steer because it's comprised of so many companies, right? It has a very low share price, but just so many companies. There's so much that depends on it, right? So it's not that easy to move. And now let's get into my focus list. I have, I think, maybe 10 names or so. And I've been looking at them mostly on a weekly time frame. So I'll switch over to the weekly. The first one is Pepsi. We've been trading Pepsi. We caught this move. We caught some of this move, not all of it, right? But some of this move here off the 50-day moving average. And now these are daily SMAs. So regardless of whether I'm on a daily chart or the weekly chart, is going to be in the same spot. What is this? Just make sure. Yeah. Oh, that looks different. All right, well, you know what? I'm not in love with it, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. All right, so and I have to reevaluate. And let me just remove. You know what, guys? I don't trade on this setup. I trade at my work computer, so I have things set up a little bit differently. Is that daily? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so what has my eye for Pepsi, and a lot of the setups this week you'll see a lot of inside weeks. This is the price action from last week. Very indecisive, not much going on. You could have caught a couple of bounces or rejections and made money. But what I'm loving about it is clearly defined range, right? Now we have the break of the high of last week. We can target the high of the previous week with some really good strength. We can come in and target the high of this week here of the 21st of November. A high of 186.62, right? And then break down below the low of last week. We can target the previous week. And then actually, I think that the downside setup is much juicier because we have very clear targets. There's a potential for like a pivot machine gun here. I just don't think that Pepsi is that powerful. And I don't think that there might not be something so bad that occurs in the news that will bring it down. They do have earnings on the 25th of April. So that's next week. Not this week, but next week. So maybe there's some sort of catalyst there that'll bring it down. But I'm loving the inside bar setup on Pepsi with some clear targets to the upside and downside. The downside just looks really good just because from a risk reward perspective. And I'll just draw it out for you real quick so that you know what I'm talking about. And then from there, we'll go into like the dailies. So from a risk reward perspective, I mean, if I wanted to let, you just test previous support and previous resistances. Those are your levels. Now, from a risk reward perspective, if we go and retest this high here and we gave enough room to undo the entire candle and we entered at the break of the high, that will give us a 0.69 to 1 risk reward ratio. That's terrible. It's really bad, right? If you wanted to be a little bit, now the riskier you get, the more reward you can possibly get. So if you bring your entry down to the open of the day, at least at that point, you got a 1.3 to 1 risk reward ratio, right? So riskier entry, right? Because it hasn't fully cleared the candlestick, but your risk reward ratio is much better. Now, the reason why I say the downside is so much better than the upside, and every single play, like I think I want to start putting my risk reward on each setup so you guys can see what I'm looking at for yourself. If you do the math, like if you just do the math on where my targets are and where my stop loss is, then you'll kind of be able to do it for yourself. But I think I'm going to maybe start loading my plays with it so that people are more prepared. But I like the risk reward to the downside is much juicier. I would set my stop to if I'm going downside, I would set my stop to, I would give it the room to this candlestick here. That candle, the top of that candlestick there, and immediately you see there's a 2 to 1 risk reward ratio, and that's off a massive PMG. So pivot machine gun, right? So I would let this break down. I would enter at the low of the candle, and then I would give it a couple of weeks to play out, 2, 3, 4 weeks to play out, right? A month swing, a 2 month swing, and if it does start to break down, and it won't be a straight line, but if it does start to break down, you see that all the potential. So that's why I like it much better for a downside, right? The downside risk reward is so much better. Let me bring it back up to here real quick, and then right back here. And you can always adjust this. You can lower your risk right? Increasing your risk reward level. Sorry, you can lower your stop, bring it closer. So it gets risky because you can easily get stopped out by it reaching this part. It'll peek its head above these two lines and then fall down, right? So and even lower, it can go above the open and then kind of peek its head above, and you're taken out of the play. But if you hold on to it, you see how much greater the risk reward is. And what we want is we want a much higher number here. Right. The rule of thumb is the ability to do 3 to 1. So like this is a play that can do 3 to 1. It has the ability to do 3 to 1. It has the ability to break below the low and then work its way down through these stop losses, these previous stop losses, these lows of day. Right. Not that you're gonna hold it for 3 to 1, but it has the ability to do it. Right. That's what if you listen to Sam Parrick, that's what he talks about. So I'm loving Pepsi for downside. It can do upside as well. Here's the daily chart. So nice strong move to the upside. Here's a consolidation. Nice strong, slow, strong move. Pulled back, bounced, and then we had a kind of an inside day, right? So an inside day inside of an inside week. So definitely an explosive move coming out of Pepsi soon, right? So that's Pepsi. I'll be watching Pepsi quite closely. And what do I have this tagged as? I have it as blue. So blue can go in either direction, up or down. The next one is go back to the weekly. Next one is Costco. Same thing. Costco has an inside bar. I got faked out with Costco pretty heavy last week. Every time it kind of works its way to 500, I'm always like, all right, cool. It's going to break. It's going to break. It got us 2 weeks in a row. I set my alert. My alert still hasn't gone off. So we'll see. Right now, I'm targeting it for I don't know. I think it looks like it's going to pull back and try to retest this level. I don't think it's going to break it this week. Just because of all the sell pressure that's sitting up here. We did form a green candle for the week, and so that shows a little bit of strength. But I want to see some continued strength. I want to see it break the range of all this, pretty much this candle here, this candle here. I want to see the range break to the upside and find the new range, maybe this range above this line here, above this orange alert level here at 503, to put us within the range of this green candlestick here, which is between 500 and 530. That's the range I want to trade in. Obviously, the higher price premiums, the more they pay, right? They get a little bit more volatile. A 3% move is much bigger on a $500 stock than it is on the $100 stock. So, so just keep that in mind. The higher price, the better it is, even though it's a little bit more expensive. But yeah, I'm loving Costco on the weekly. Let's look at the daily real quick. We gapped down on the daily and then we undid the gap within 2 days. So that shows some strength. Whoever the sellers that were sitting in here who didn't get filled, they got filled again on this day. And even maybe some on Friday, right? So I'm just going to continue to watch it. I think there's a range here that needs to be broken. I'm looking for the upside break. I want to see it kind of test this high over here at 529.58. I want to see it take this 503 and turn it into its new low. So that's what I'll be watching. Next one is Walmart. Is this an upside or is this there's a setup on here that can go? So this can go either way. Now I'm going to leave the fib here. Let me just get rid of some of these levels. Get rid of some of my levels here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I want to leave my fib there because I like that 1618. I like where the guidance that is giving us. Do it here. Okay, so I measured the move from the top of this week to the bottom of this week and the bounce, right? It bounced and it formed a new high, breaking out above this high here. And now it's finding some sort of support at the previous resistance level, right? If you look all the way over to the left, there's a doji that formed at this level. So this is a key level, right? So if it can hold support in this level and then break above the high of the week, I think I had this for an inside week, but I think that the range of last week was a little bit higher. Yeah, it broke up a little bit higher, so it's not like a true inside week. However, sellers are active in this area. If buyers can bring the price back up, then our final target will be 155.91. Let's go to the daily. And I mean, it was 1 day of indecision followed by 4 days of selling rather. And then you see it's finding a little bit of buying pressure where there was previous sell pressure here and here. So, and then if I draw a fib, let me draw a fib real quick from just this quick little move here. Right there. it'll be a safe spot for it to hold as support at the 786 fib here, working its way back up. Now, I don't mind if it pulls back as deeply as 618 or as deeply as 50%. That would actually be very, very strong for Walmart overall. I think that Walmart's poised to continue to move up. So I'll be looking for a continued move to the upside. I'm not even going to play it until it gets above this resistance here. I am going to add an alert for myself personally here at 151.08. Break of that, and then we can get into some calls. And if you want to get in early, just go ahead and throw some time on it. The next one is AKAM. Let me see what's going on. Okay, cool. AKAM. They have, so now the same setup. It's an inside day, right? Now a lot of these are on weekly. I'm gonna show you the weekly real quick so you can see. All I see on the weekly is like 5 back-to-back weeks of higher highs and higher lows, right? So that shows strength, but the real setup is on a daily, where you have a nice little measured upside pullback, higher low, higher high, higher low kind of vibe. And now we have an inside bar well within a gap, right? Here's the gap from this gap down from earnings. Excuse me. And so now we have this gap that, and I'm just like from the school of like, oh yeah, gaps always get filled. That's not the case. It's not always the case. However, I think that this sector can benefit from what do they do exactly? I think they're in I think they make microchips. Let me just double check that. My sections. Give me 1 second. I don't want to confuse them with AMAT. They're Akamai. What does Akamai do? Akamai Technologies launches Akamai Hunt Security Service. Technology to buy. So they're a technology company, and I feel like they're one of those. Oh, it's cloud computing push. Okay, so they're like they're in the point is they stand to benefit from all of the kind of AI madness that's going on. And I haven't really followed AI technology within the market itself. I followed like AI technology as it exists in the world. And so I think that, for example, like Nvidia is getting sold off a little bit right now. AMD is getting sold off a little bit right now. I think that they're going to be monster come 6 months from now, like monster, like, making new annual highs, right? Based on what's going on with all technology and how quickly everything is developing now. I hope I don't put my foot in my mouth 6 months from now. I mean, if I do, it is what it is. I'm not here to make predictions. But anyway, what the point of that is, I like how this gap is starting to get filled. We had a nice strong day on Thursday, indecisive day on Friday, but it did hold above the 50%. It closed above the 50% of this candlestick, so it didn't undo the entire move, and buyer stepped in and brought it back up. So if we can break above the high of this, we can target the high of the previous candlestick. From there we can go, and I mean, this one's not going to go too crazy, but I think 84 is attainable. Above 84 we have 85, so maybe 85 calls for Friday, or maybe 85 calls for next week Friday would probably be very likely if it breaks to the upside. Now if it breaks to the downside, we got some clear targets. I would just target the lows, these two lows here, target 84, 85 to the upside, and then target previous day, and then Wednesday, and then Tuesday, and then Monday, right? But this is a crazy move for a ticker to do in just like 3 or 4, in 1 week pretty much. So got my eyes on it. I'm loving the fact that it's trading in the gap now. The reason why I like the fact that it's trading in the gap now is because if I just throw a quick volume profile on this, you see that it can get through the gap, these gaps pretty quickly. There's a little bit of resistance sitting right here at 83.77, and then but from where we are to 83.77 is very easy, and then above 83.77 there's a nice gap to fill in volume all the way up to like 87.32 and change. So I think that it's in a good spot. So let me just close that. Is that my daily? Yeah, get rid of these. I don't want these. Get rid of these. So that's the setup on Akamai, and I believe they're closely tied to microchips. So, and when chips are doing bad, LRCX is doing bad. Nvidia had a bad, not a strong couple of weeks or a strong week. AMD not a strong week, right? They're in their pullback week. where this is showing strength, I think that's very interesting, and I think that's something we should keep our eyes on. All right, the next one is Amazon. Amazon weekly, very nice. Lots of buying pressure down in this area. Indecisive week. Sellers took control at the beginning of last week, and then buyers brought it right back up. Going over to the daily, the setup is on the daily, right? We have this kind of wedge that's forming. And so we're looking for it to either break. And now I have this label that's green. I think it's going to break, right? It's labeled, it has a green flag. I think it's going to break to the upside, break above high of day and test this pivot here at 103.92. Above that, we got some really nice levels to test. If we just put the, use the open, high, low, and close of these candlesticks here. We got some nice upside targets going up as high as, what's this one? I don't think we get there, but going up as high as 114. I don't think we get there anytime soon, maybe a couple months out, right? But if we do get a nice strong push, and maybe they get some news with earnings coming up on the 27th, 2 weeks, we can possibly get an earnings run up depending on what's going on, right? But I like it to break to the upside, but if it does fall on this resistance, then it can fall and undo this entire candlestick of Thursday. Amazon will be Amazon is always on the table, actually, especially at this level. If you like Amazon, you should be buying shares relentlessly at this level. It's such a good price. I just like to reach attainable targets, and these are your attainable targets for Amazon. Nice and simple. Next one is Meta. The Meta setup is on a weekly. So I mean, the weekly is just nice and simple. You don't gotta overthink it. You got nasty move out of earnings back here. I believe this was an earnings reaction, and then it's just been in a strong downtrend, very, very strong downtrend ever since. Nice end of the move push to the downside, little bounce, and then it's just been going pretty insane ever since. There's kind of a cup and handle here. There's an inverse head and shoulder here. There's bull flags, all kinds of stuff going on here. But the reason why I like Meta so much is because we formed this strong candle, bullish engulfing candle over, engulfed this candlestick, broke above all this resistance here, and have been forming higher highs each week back to back for 7 weeks, 7 weeks back to back of higher highs. So that's a show of strength to me. I think that Meta is going to continue to move with strength. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago we discussed Meta 225 calls for 421, which is next week's this Friday's expiration. Things haven't changed. I mean, if you jumped in when I first, and I didn't jump in when I first mentioned it, but if you jumped in when I first mentioned it, you rode the wave of 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever it was that I mentioned it. So nice move, about from here, let's give this one open a low 197.90 to a high of 222. So that's what, about $15 move, right? Or no, $25 move. So not bad. $25 move on a $200 stock. It's about 12% on a nice 3-week chill swing trade. Very nice. I think that everything is playing out nicely for swings. So you're gonna see more overnight holds. You're gonna see more 1 week and 2 week swing attempts, right? I think there's a few that I'm holding. I don't know where the hell my phone is. My phone's on the playoffs right now. But I mean, you can go through the gold mine and see there's a bunch of plays that now have much more time on them, right? And so after the gap up on Meta earnings, it came and never filled the gap back down. Formed the cup and handle. Here's your handle, broke out. From the flags, all kinds of stuff. Overcame all this sell pressure, sitting here around 207, 208, and is now trading at 221.49. Even last week, I think we called it 225s, and they'll be in the money. I think with a strong push, we can get in the money by tomorrow. So I'm looking for a continuation, and again, the setup is on a weekly. The first target is 224.30. Next target is 231.15. Above that, the target would be this 237. But I think we got a nice pullback at this level here. I think 224.30 is going to give us a pullback. So I think we get in the money. I think we sell when we get in the money, and I think we let it pull back, and I think we find a reentry and maybe not, not the reentry maybe in a week, maybe in a couple weeks, but I think we find some sort of reentry for a continued move to the upside for Meta. Meta is one of my favorites today. Next one is UPS. I think these are all, yeah, these are all green. Okay, UPS, the setup is on a weekly. Let's just go to the daily real quick. The daily had a little bit of a range that it formed here. It created a wedge, which broke to the upside. Let me just, and if you were on the call a couple weeks back, you remember this wedge. It broke to the upside, came back down and retested previous support as resistance, or sorry, previous resistance as support here, bounced, going sideways. I'm loving the indecision with a strong green candle coming out of the backside of it. Now, we still didn't break the range of Wednesday's candlestick. I think that was some strength in UPS, and they have earnings on the 25th, so next week. With some strength above that 194 level, we can break above this 195 level, and then we can easily get to that 200 level. So 200 is my final target for UPS. I don't want to, and a swing would be nice and appropriate, but earnings, right? Swinging your own risk with earnings. So I won't call it. But if you like it and you see the strength, then have faith in yourself. The setup is on a weekly. What I love about the weekly chart is it had this consolidation, kind of pulled back, found some support. Bunch of buyers loved it here, brought it back up. Sellers brought it back down. We started kind of expanding the range a little bit, and now we're at the top of the range. There's almost like a cup and handle here. Here's your cup. Higher, here's your handle with some higher highs, higher lows. And now we had this strong green week, pull back, buyers stepped in, and then buyers brought it right back in. Now we also have, let me remove all of these drawings. We also have very, very important on UPS, an inside week. So it can go either way, but I think with all the strength, especially a big green week following a big red week like this, with all this strength, we can definitely break to the upside. And again, that number one target for me personally is going to be that 200. Well, I added a VWAP. That 200. It says 199.50, but we all know what it is, right? So, loving UPS for the upside play. The next one is, what was I just on? Meta. Okay, UPS. The next one is Microsoft. Let me get rid of some old and remove drawings. I'm loving Microsoft on the weekly. Microsoft, I think this is in blue. Let me see. Oh, it's green. Okay. Now I'm not completely sold on Microsoft. I love the trajectory it's on. The reason why I have it here, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but the reason why I have it here is because it's not an inside week. We broke down below the low of the previous week by just a couple of pennies, right? The low of this week is 282.03. Low of last week was 281.64. So about 40 cents or so, right? But what I like about it is we came back and kind of filled this gap for 2 weeks in a row. And every time that we filled this gap, buyers stepped in. So I like that there's buying pressure at this level. And that gives me faith there's a continuation of Microsoft potential. Right, there's a potential continuation of Microsoft depending on what it does out of this level. Now, if it falls down, I can see it undoing all of these lows here and testing 50% of this candlestick and then testing the 0% of this candlestick with some seller strength. I just see some strength coming out of this level. Now, I just want to see something real quick. But I love how every time we get into that gap, buyers step in and say it's our turn. Now, I just ran the VWAP, the anchored VWAP from this high here. From the high of 2021, November 2021, which was the pivotal point when everything changed. We immediately hit a downtrend everywhere starting at that point. And so I just ran this anchored VWAP, and now we're finally above it and we're testing it as support. So very key area. I like it. I don't know if it's going to be ready next week, but I'll keep my eyes on it. Jake is really good at Microsoft, and Esta is really good at Microsoft as well. So I would follow their guidance if they see something. If they see something interesting with Microsoft, I would follow their guidance on it. However, I think that there's definitely a move. I'm not seeing it playing out for us this week. And again, we have this week of big earnings. We have next week of very big earnings, right? With Microsoft earning next week, Apple, Google, Meta, all next week. Not this week, but next week, right? So all very important earnings, and in my experience, they make big moves at the event, and some of them rarely continue. Google usually is a one that continues and follows through with earnings drift. Microsoft is a hit or miss. So the point of all that is we might have a choppy couple of weeks, which means 10 choppy days, 8 choppy days, whatever the case is, until all the dust settles, and then the market can digest all of the because you don't want to have a really strong earnings in Apple, but then a really terrible earnings in Meta. You don't want to have a really strong earnings in Google and then have a really terrible earnings in Microsoft. Like, these people who are selling in one they're buyers of all, and they're not going to sell all. They're probably going to reposition a little bit. So we're really at the mercy of these larger funds and larger money people. And in my experience, the past couple of earnings seasons, there's a lot of chop. So I would expect some chop. If it can maintain this level above this gray box, I think that there's more upside. So that's that. Next one is Google. Google, we've been smashing Google for weeks now. One of my favorites to trade. I have to look at Google every single day because I feel like it has something for us every single day. We formed an inside week range within the range of the previous week, and very, very close to breaking above the top of it. So if we can break that upside, now I wouldn't even take it above high of day. I would just let it break the previous week's high. And then at that point, we can retest this high here. And if we can hold above this level, you see there's a bunch of sellers that were sitting kind of in this area, and a nasty range where we can get stuck in. Let me throw the volume profile on this real quick. That, I don't want to get stuck in the range, but I mean, it is what it is. This is where all the volume is, up in this level, right? So let me just put my candlestick. Now, ignore the volume, break through this, test that first level at 111.62, above that 116.72. There's a volume node right here at 114, so 114 is going to be a tough level. Let me go ahead and just mark this right here, 114. And those are your upside targets. I don't see any downside on this right now. I think that earnings might be a potential catalyst. Look at all of their earnings, how they perform, just red. And even with some of that red, there's still some upside move coming out of that red, right? On those weeks, we had negative earnings here with a nice strong move the following week. We had a negative earnings result here, and then a continued move to the upside. We had negative earnings here, it fell down hard, and then it bounced pretty hard, right? We had negative earnings here, and then the next week it fell down. So let's see. There's really no rhyme or reason. Let's look at the daily real quick. I just see strength on the technical setup. There's a cup and handle right here. Here's your cup. Here's your handle, breakout, little pullback, retest the high, and now we can try to break and go above into. If you look at the chart the way it is, there's some clear skies, but let me just zoom out for some context. And yeah, same levels. We have that 114, 111.70, that 114, above 114 we get 116, above that we get 120. So I'm really looking forward to trading Google for the next couple of months. I think it's going to be a strong one for us. Congrats if anybody took it on Friday. That was a monster play by DYT and yours truly. And I think at this point, when DYT says Google, just throw whatever you can afford into it, because she's been on a roll with it for like 3 weeks now. So, well, she's been on a roll publicly with it for 3 weeks. I know she's been hitting it for months and months. All right. The next one is, where we at? The next one is, I just have a few more. Pinterest. I called out the Pinterest swing. So Pinterest is one of the ones that we're in for a 421. I don't know what it is. Like it's pretty much at the money. It just needs to break above the high of that red week right there. This is actually the setup from when I analyzed it. I think, I don't know if I put the play out on Friday or Thursday, but this is the exact setup from since the analysis. Actually, let's look at the daily. Yeah, I don't even know when I did it, but I know that it needs to break above this level here for a clear entry, right? This level at 28.67. I already called it. The vibes is high. We got that inside bar on the on Friday into Thursday. Break above the high of Thursday, and then we have a couple of targets here that we can target. But I like this nice consolidation to give us a nice strong move. Now, again, the setup is on a weekly. We have 3 weeks of sideways action with some strength. I want to see it break above this level, and I want to see the potential. Now, we're not going to catch it by 421. You might see us playing Pinterest for the next couple of weeks, You might see me look for some June calls for Pinterest. I want to see this consolidated move after all this chop break into some of this range here. I want to see I want to see it break into this candlestick here. And that's what I'm targeting for now. The top of this candlestick is 33.79. The top of this setup is 33.97. Let me bring it back down to reality. Let's go right there. 33.79. And this is a 3.3 to 1, 3.38 to 1 risk reward ratio. And that's if you keep your stop at last week's low. If you put your stop to this past week's low, you get a 4.85 to 1 risk reward ratio. If you go on the daily, and again, this is about swing trade, right? If you go on a daily and you set your stop to Friday's low, now you're going to have, let me go back to the weekly. Now you're going to have a 8.43 to 1 risk reward ratio. So you don't have to keep, this thing's going to start moving. Let's go to the daily. This thing's going to start moving up. And all you got to do to mitigate risk is to bring your stop up a little bit higher. And then after a point, once it's like very profitable, you can bring your stop, leave your runners, take most of it off the table, leave your runners, bring your stop to your entry point. That means you'll never go negative. You'll never go negative on this trade. And even if it comes all the way back down and fails, your runner, you're still protected by your runner. The risk reward on this, where is it? I don't even know where it is. It doesn't even exist. Hold on. Okay. Let's bring it to let's bring it there. That way we have something to work with. Your risk reward on this is, you can't even see it, man. It's a lot. It's very high. The ratio is very, very high. Look at how much green there is to red. Risk reward is 73 to 1. It'd be an absolute monster trade, but it doesn't start at 73. It starts down here. It starts at 6.5 and then or 3, and then you go from 3 to 4. From 4 you go to 5. From 5 you go to 7. From 7 you go up to, then you start moving your stops up, and that's how you take care of your trade. So I think I'm going to start referring to this risk reward ratio a lot more in my trade, so you guys can get the kind of the mindset that I'm in when I'm taking some of these. And this exists on all time frames as well. This is on the, there we go. This is on the 5 minute, the 1 minute. Whenever you see me put out a play, is because there's a stop that's right here. I can put my foot on it and stand on it, and it's not too far, but the upside can bring us into a nice, just like Google. I was looking for 200% on Google on Friday. We got it, right? I don't know if all of you follow me on Twitter, but I put it on Twitter. I'm saying I'm looking for a triple, and we got the 100%, got the double, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, this looks like it has this certain amount of risk reward, and that's, so this is when you see my mind going in certain ways, because I'm looking for setups like these all day. So Pinterest is one of them for a longer time frame. Next one is MRK. I think this is the part of the watch list that is, not yet. Okay, MRK, bullish. We like it. We like the consolidation. We like the double bottom on the weekly. Strong move. Nice continuation, breaking all these highs here. I just want to see a continuation. I think that 120 is magnetic. And it's just that simple. Nothing more, nothing less. I think 120 is magnetic. 120 is going to be the final target for MRK. That might be like a 3-week swing. So I'll look for, and MRK is a little bit expensive, but I think we find a nice one with time, like a nice neglected options chain expiration with time, and we set that 120. I think we'll get it. So I'm loving it for the weekly. Next one's MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy looks really good on the daily. It kind of rejected at previous resistance here a bunch, found some support, and then gave us a nice strong move here. Which one were we just talking about a minute ago? Was it Microsoft Weekly? I forget. Maybe it was UPS. I forget which one it was. Maybe it was UPS. But I mentioned that I wanted to, whatever it is, I wanted to break out above. Go here real quick. There. Break out above with strength. This is the type of strength that we're looking at. This is the type of strength we're looking at. A nice strong green candle that changes the trajectory. It doesn't go sideways. It goes up. Right? So loving MSTR. It's finding some support here on top of this shelf. Lots of volume traded at this shelf from the past couple of days, and so I think that's very interesting. If we go over to the weekly, we got some clear targets. We got the previous open and the previous high and the previous high, and then we got some more highs up here with some nice low volume in terms of where the chart is now. Let me just zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, very, very low volume in terms of MicroStrategy's history. Now, I would defer to JCat on this. JCat has a nice pulse on this MicroStrategy. So if you see Jay put a play out, I would ask him about it. I don't think that me and him analyze things the same way. So I would just ask him about it and what he thinks and his thoughts if you like this. Let me just set some VWAPs here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. This is what I want. So we're above the anchor VWAP from this high of this week here. And the next target would be, a nice target would be that 485, which is a previous pivot. So some confluence there. So I'm loving that. I have two more, and then I'll go into, I see, Jen, I see you put out a couple that we want to look at. The next one, now these two, I don't think these two are quite ready yet, right? I don't think they're quite ready yet. I think there's something that's there potentially, but I don't think that they're ready yet. And I think my SQ was a daily. Yeah, so SQ, I'm targeting for a downside move. I'm targeting for a downside move. I have a big red candlestick on Wednesday, followed by a small inside bar on Thursday, followed by an even smaller inside bar on Friday, right? And again, you guys hear me say this week in and week out. Range expansion leads to range contraction, range contraction leads to range expansion. The smaller the range gets, the more expectation that you can get a nice big candlestick. So there's a potential for like a 3 or 4 bar play coming out of this, right? 4 bar play at this point. Right, big strong move to the downside, consolidations, range is getting tighter. If sellers can step in, we can break this to the downside and target some of these previous lows over here. I'm not sure if it's ready yet, but I'm loving the fact that there's a double inside bar on this. I'm gonna go ahead and set my alerts to the top and bottom. If you have TradingView, go ahead and set your alerts. If you have Thinkorswim, go ahead and set your alerts. If you have Robinhood, go ahead and set your alerts. You have any brokerage, go ahead and set your alerts and trade with peace and calm. But I think SQ has a nice move, especially after 2 days of consolidation. The next one is, and the last one for me is Starbucks. Starbucks Weekly. Starbucks Weekly is the setup. It had a 3 bar play coming out of this past 3 weeks. Nice strong move, breaking a couple weeks previous resistance. Some sideways action, indecision, nothing crazy, and then a nice new high coming out of that. Now, this isn't a true 3 bar play, but it is a show of strength, especially coming into this resistance here. You see all this volume here, broke right above that volume. Now we're inside the volume gap. The next target will be 111.46, which is right in the middle of the range of all that previous price action. You see how protruded this volume profile is. So, and then we're kind of in clear skies right now. So if we can get above this pivot right here at 109, then I think 112 is the next spot. And then above one, at that point, we'll probably go sideways a bunch until we decide whether we're going to go up or down. But I'm loving Starbucks. I'm not sure if it's ready. Reason why I look at the daily, Starbucks usually goes vertical, and it's just there's a bunch of upper wicks on this that I'm not in love with. The last time we saw some upper wicks like that, right, was back here on this kind of move, and then it kind of went sideways and it failed. Now, spade to spade, it was on earnings, but I don't think it's fully ready yet. I like to see strong bodies on this. You see this strong body here, some strong bodies over here. So that's what I'm looking for to give me the full confidence. So, I'm just going to go ahead and set my alert above the high of this day, Friday. And I'm going to set my alert for the low. And that's it. Chill, right? And if you guys see a setup that you like, go ahead and comment and I'll take a look. Let's look at end phase. End phase on a weekly. I think there's a big move coming out of this just because it's been going sideways, up and down. If you guys are Warner Brothers kids, then rabbit season, duck season. If you understand that reference, then you and me are kindred spirits. Just sideways. Sellers to control, found the bounce here, formed the wedge, and just been channeling ever since. So now I need to see it out of this channel. I came to a realization that I don't like to trade things when they're inside of consolidated areas, inside high traffic areas. I want to trade things when they are they're out, when they have a clear path, right? A clear path, no resistance, magnetic. Now, this thing is sitting at right on top of the channel, and buyers and sellers are in conflict here. It's sitting right at a volume profile. If it can reclaim the high of Friday, I think that end phase can make a nice move. Now, I was looking at end phase a couple weeks ago for the weekly, and I think that there's a big move coming out of it. The first part of it would be to retest this 247 level. The second part of it would be to retest this pivot. The third part of it would be to bring it back into this channel. So now I don't know. Let's look at the weekly. Yeah, I don't know like how far out that'll occur. I mean, I really don't know. I don't have my eye on this ticker too much. I do see the channel is very clear to me right now. It's in a not very strong downtrend. Actually, the channel kind of extends out beyond where I drew. It kind of comes way back to like way back here. Like there, right? And kind of there, right? So it's in a channel within a channel. The slope of this newer channel is less aggressive, right? It's more flat, which means the tide might be turning for end phase. So I just want to see a break above this level, break above high of day for max confidence, and then you have 215.89, 221.49, 230.44, 247. Let's call it 250, and then we got 260 for end phase. Now, if it breaks down below this line here at 205.87, which I drew based on, I think this support here, support, resistance, support, very, very clear line at 205.87 that goes way back. I think I drew that on the weekly. Then it can come down and test that 193.58 and then 187, and then I will call it 180 to the downside. So those are your levels for end phase. And again, I don't know what's going on with them lately. I know they're big movers. So what did they do on this day? 7% move on this day, $200 stock. That's a $14 move. So yeah, I mean, it moves, right? So, and they have earnings coming up on the 25th of April. So there's a potential for an earnings run up if there's good news. Let's see if there's good news. We got time to get in. Oh man, Market Beat says it's time to get in. HSBC initiates end phase energy at a buy with 271 price target. Deutsche Bank adjusts end phase price target to 280 from 285. Keeps buy. So, you know, you can take it at face value and say, oh, it's time to get in. People are saying buy, blah. First of all, HSBC, I don't fucking trust them. I don't trust them. Like, they can be, if I see my mother in an HSBC hat, I'm not talking to her. Like, it's like that. Like, if it's just that kind of hatred that I have for them. They're just a terrible bank. If you don't know the history of HSBC, there's a bunch of stuff on Netflix. They're extremely predatory. That being said, if HSBC wants to sponsor Gold Rush, I'll retract all of my statements. But anyway, you know, markets are saying, yeah, buy, here's a target, buy, here's a target. Two terrible banks, HSBC and Deutsche, terrible banks, saying to buy, right? Market Beat saying it's time to go long. You know, you can if you have faith in these sources. I think that that's a liquidity grab. I think that they'll say that so that people can spend money without thinking about it too much, and then they pull a rug on you and then they bring it back to the bottom of the channel. So it's up to you. I mean, it's up to you. I don't know what's going on with this company. It's an energy company. So let's look at this and let's look at the where's the XLE? See, but XLE looks so much different. The charts are so much different. So I can't even say they're that closely correlated, right? So you know what? They might be more like solar energy. Yeah, not even. I mean, I don't know. I got to do my research, guys. I hate to sound ignorant. There being buy ratings, you can take it for what you want. Now, what I would do is, if you're interested, whether you want to hold long or you want to just trade calls or whatever the case is, I would look into FinViz and see what the insiders are doing. Are they buying as well, right? See if the CEO, the CFO, the chief, the way that it goes is the chief operating officer will be the first one to know because he's the closest to the product. From there, they bring it up to the CFO. CFO says to the CEO, here are the decisions you got to make. And And that's how it goes. So if you see that the COO is buying, that might be a good sign. You see the CFO is buying, that's probably a really good sign. Now, if you see that the CFO is selling, or any of those chief guys, any of those C-suite people are selling, then I would just go ahead and mimic what they're doing. I wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel at this point. Lulu, I remember Lulu having a beautiful setup on the weekly. I saw it was like a potential 3-bar play. However, we can ignore the majority of this first bar because there is. Let me clear my drawings, because this was an earnings gap up. That was an earnings gap up on this day. So it's not like a true volume filled move, right? There's no volume, as you can see. There's no volume in this on the shelves here. So I can't call it a true 3-bar play. However, I do like the fact that there's a smaller range on this week's candle versus last week's candle after the gap up. Let's go into the daily. Yeah, I mean, I think Jay and I were talking about this in the server on Friday. It's just wedging right now. Right here's one, and the bottom side of this is really aggressive. Actually, let me just fix that. There you go. The bottom side is really aggressive. Look at how aggressively higher it goes. Break above day high, target the previous week high. From there, target the week before that. And then above that, now this can go, you see this can go any direction. There's a gap to the upside and a gap to the downside. And I can't call it. I mean, the fact that it's holding in place is, after such a gap up, is great for bulls. I don't even know where to draw this thing from. I mean, I'm just going to draw it from over here. The fact that it's holding up after the gap up is great for bulls. However, it can be a very nice opportunity for bears if bulls can't bring it into, if they can't overcome some of this volume that's up here. And it's not a lot. I mean, you don't see much here, but you don't know how many how many sell orders are sitting here. This is a very clear supply zone to me. And obviously it's, the supply sitting there based on the reaction to earnings, 5 months ago or 4 months ago in December. And then you have demand sitting here based on a reaction to earnings last month. So now we're at a point where we're going to make a decision out of this wedge. And if we decide to go up, we're going to make a decision here at this previous supply where we can easily, and you see this big, massive gap in volume here. So, but again, we have that. And then if I pull this back a little bit, just so you can get some more volume involved in the picture, there's not much going on up here, so it can go in any direction. It really can go in any direction. Now, I want to see it above. I want to see it above this pivot right here at 385.71. Lulu can probably do that in like 3 or 4 days, 5 days, if it really wants to, with a strong trajectory. Because look at this bounce here, right? 3, 4, 5 days going sideways, nice bounce into earnings with a nice volume gap up. So it can do it in that direction. I don't know which way it's gonna go. Now, what I would do is I would go ahead and set your alerts. And I don't really trade Lulu like that, so I'm not gonna put it on my chart. I actually wanted to break this support here. My level's still kind of set here. I'm waiting for it, but I don't trade it like that. But if you want to trade it, take the low of the and this is another one Jay's in touch with, so I would tap into JCat. But I would just take a break of the low, and you can target the previous low. From there, go down to some lower levels. I would probably say 347 or 350, down to 340, down to 330, right? $10 increments. And same thing to the upside. Above 370, get 380, go to 390 for Lulu. And I would go ahead and just set your alerts. Trade it from level to level. Next one's Roku. I looked at Roku earlier when I was doing my DD, and I didn't like it, only because it's in a nasty range right now. We had this falling wedge that broke up a little bit, but it didn't break out as expected. Like usually these falling wedges will break out and go to the top of the wedge, and then maybe pull back, form a cup and handle out of that pullback, and then continue to move. But this just kind of went sideways after that falling wedge. Let me remove my drawings here. I need to see Roku. For me to do anything with Roku, I need to see it out of this box. I need Roku out of this box. I'm going to put it at the volume shelf so you can see how much volume is there. I need it out of this box. I need it out of all this traffic here. So I would like to trade it above $67. Above $67, underneath $67, I'm not touching it. Above $58, I'm not touching it. personal preference. And I suggest you do the same because you can get stuck in this channel unless you're scalping it, right? Netflix. Netflix is setting up on a nice cup and handle. It broke out of its channel. I think this is a weekly channel. Yeah, it broke out of it. It broke down through its weekly channel that I drew a while back. Now this can be dangerous. There's a nice move to the upside, filled this gap from earnings, and pulled back. I want to measure this because I think looks like it might be 618. Yeah, 618. It pulled back to 618 level. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. It pulled back to around 61% of the move, and then it bounced up, and now it's going sideways. Now, what that looks like to me on the shorter time frame is a cup and handle. Why is the first thing I saw is why I say I like it. It basically went sideways, came all the way down. Buyer stepped in and brought it all the way back up, and now it's going sideways. So there's a potential for continuation to the upside. I'm gonna leave the channel just for some long-term context, but I don't think that the channel's in play at the moment. We got that kind of target there, and look at that doji. I mean, this doji says it all. Look at what happened with this doji. It just came back to that level and kind of rejected it. So we need to get above that level, and then we can try to target this 361 where all the rest of the volume is at. I would say break below this level here. Nice little gap into the bottom of this kind of new setup that's here. And then from there, we can target the 321. Let me get rid of some of these other levels here. Unless they come into play in the future, just get rid of them. I'm going to take this and turn it into a dashed line. So... So yeah, I see a cup and handle. I'm looking for, I would like for it to break above that 348.28 level for some confidence. You can get in earlier if you like it. I've gotten burned playing Netflix a bunch. So I like to let it break out, clear breakouts. Now I wouldn't even take it. Oh shit, hold on 1 second. My Amazon device thought that I triggered it, and it played some song called Breakout. So, and my kid is sleeping, so that was about to be very bad. I would alert for the break of the low of the candlestick. I wouldn't take a play until it gets underneath this Wednesday candlestick. Just because I don't want to get killed by Netflix is a killer. I mean, absolute killer. Because you'll get like a nice big doji, like a long-legged doji like that, where you think this was a full body at one point, right? That was a full body at one point, and you think that it's gonna show strength, and it just rips your face off and goes in the opposite direction. So I can see a doji potentially forming here. I can see another doji potentially forming here. I can see I see clear move above this line. I see a clear move below this 330, but I still want to be alerted of the break of the range. So that's that. I like Netflix. Netflix is Jake's baby. JCat's also very good at Netflix. So I would defer to them for a Netflix play. They usually nail it every single time. So yeah. Let's look at ES real quick. Actually, let's do SPX for the people who are on YouTube who due to my technical difficulties, we missed it as part of the recording. So ES basically, we're at the same level that we kind of found some previous resistance and support for weeks and weeks and weeks. The last time that we were here, it sold off. Oh, it was this one, I think. Maybe it was this one. So we kind of found resistance here, pulled back. We stuck our head above, and then sellers came in and brought it way back down and made a new low of year, right? And then we kind of worked our way back up to it. Buyers couldn't overtake it at this level, and now we're back. So what's going to happen? Either it's going to go up, or it's going to go down, or it's going to go sideways. Those are the three things that can happen with this. I can see a little bit, and you see sellers are in control as of the weekly. Let's go to the daily real quick. Now it really depends. I mean, there's been a lot of news to digest. I don't think that SPX is, and that's another thing. SPX is never purely technical. Like, it's never just like, oh, okay, there's a cup and handle. Here's an inside head and shoulders. Here's inverse head and shoulders. Here's a whatever, whatever fucking name that people come up with for setups. I don't think it's purely that with SPX. I think SPX has to do more with news than anything else. And so you got to know what the vibes of the day are, right? If the day calls for it to go up, then it'll go up. Day calls for it to go sideways, it'll go sideways. So if we want to break through this, we got to have, everything has to line up. Some good weather, some good lunch. Jerome's now on the microphone. Just all kinds of things have to line up in order for this. And it's going to be a green day. All right, let's give it a real green day before it can really truly break out above this and maybe test that pivot at 4303. Oh, sorry, 4304. We're at 4137 right now. We got 4150, 4200, 4250, 4300 with the quarters in between, right? The 25s and the 75s in between, and the random 10s and 15s and 30s and 35s. And so there's a lot for SPX. What I love about SPX is, I mean, we had kind of an inverse head and shoulders. Here's your left shoulder. Here's your head. Here's your right shoulder. Here's your double bottom. Or two right shoulders, however you want to call it. We have a cup and handle vibe kind of going here. Now, let me be clear. I love technical. I'm a technical trader. I'm a momentum trader. I love it to death. The names are just the easy kind of way, like how people in strat use 1, 2, and 3 to describe what's going on. I just use these technical terms to describe what's going on. When I see a cup and handle, I see price moves down, sellers are in control, price comes back up, buyers take control. Price goes sideways, there's a little bit of a battle at the top of the range. It usually leads to a breakout. If it doesn't fail hard, it usually leads to a breakout. Cup and handle. Inverse head and shoulders. Sellers are in control. Buyers took control and brought it back up to a key area. Sellers brought it back down even lower. Buyers brought it back up. Sellers brought it back down but couldn't bring it back as low as the previous low. Show of strength for buyers. Continuation. That's all that this is. It's just who's in control and what kind of words you use to describe it. Now SPX on a weekly, is forming higher lows. We have this low here, we have this low here, we have this low here, higher low. We haven't formed that. We have the first kind of higher high here. We need to make a new high. We need to break into the air territory of this pivot here. And then that'll be the beginning of a trend, right? That'll be a trend. Now we can form a new high and then pull back and make a whole new low and just negate the whole thing, right? But I'm just trying to identify what potential setups that we can see here. Now, the last thing we'll look at is real quick ES, just to kind of know where we are so far. Obviously, during the weeks, during Sunday, usually ES opens up right in the range of the previous candlestick. And it looks like it's on the upper range. So, I mean, it can do whatever. It can break out above the high. It can poke its head. It can tap this previous 4210, and then it can work its way all the way down. Like, it can do whatever it wants. It makes no sense for us to look at it now. If it holds above this 4137 level, then it can try to get to this 4280 level at some point in the next couple of days. I mean, nothing else to see here. Again, we have a lot of names, a lot of earnings. For those that missed the beginning of the call, I'm just going to go quickly through some of the names. We have Tesla, Schwab, Bank of America, Netflix, J&J, Goldman Sachs, TSM, LMT, Morgan Stanley. So some of the rest of the banks are reporting this week. American Express, let's see, Blackstone, BX, AA, LRCX. So a lot of big names that aren't necessarily, and like I mentioned earlier, aren't necessarily market moving like that. However, they do give a clue as to what's going on kind of in the under the surface. So like when housing takes a dump, which might not happen for a while and will only happen after following unemployment down. But when that happens, you'll hear about it first through the bank's earnings before it happens, right? You hear certain language in the bank's earnings. So these are important earnings calls to listen to prepare yourself for what can potentially happen in the market, not based on a reaction of what they say right away, but what can happen in the markets in the next 3 or 4 months based on forecasts. So very important. That's it, guys. That's all I have. We did about an hour. So I'm happy about that. If you guys have anything else you want to look at, go ahead and just throw it in the watch list channel. Or you can ping me throughout the day at any point. Just ping me and say, hey, look at this chart real quick. And I'll take a moment and look. I'll always take a moment and look at an opportunity to make money for us, right? So thank you guys for being on the call, as always. Much appreciated. And I hope that we can continue with the havoc that we have been wreaking on this market. We have been doing absolutely insane. And I hope that all of our accounts are reflecting that. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go have some tea. My voice hurts. Toast. The Knicks have gone through the first round. Or they're going through the first round. We beat Cleveland yesterday. So I'm on a high horse. So I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys later. Have a good weekend, guys. Take care.